Fox Sports.
We are Fox. We are the Lions.
14 games to go, and the Indians have made it extremely difficult on themselves to return to the postseason in 2014. But there's still a chance, and it has to start with a win tonight in Houston. Everything's bigger in Texas. Their 10-gallon hats, their boots, even their mascots, pratfalls. This big 4-game series kicks off next on Sports Time Ohio. From Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, it's Cleveland Indians baseball. Tonight, the Tribe embarks on its final road trip of their regular season. A 4-game series opens tonight between the Indians and the Houston Astros. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. As we all know, the game of baseball is built on numbers. They mark the history of the game, and you look around Major League Baseball today, every front office has an analytics department that crunches the numbers. But, Rick, when you take a long look at the numbers that Michael Brantley has put up this year, you're talking about somebody very special.
You know, when you're a major leaguer and you make it to the big leagues, your goals are, let me hit 300, let me hit 20 home runs, let me drive in 100, score 100, and you're going to have a very good year. But when you also throw in, you have an opportunity for 200 hits and everything else that is involved, that way that Michael Brantley plays this game, it is a very special season. Once he hits that 1 home run for 20, he needs a double for 40, the 20 hits for 200. I want to see him get that. And by the way, he has 12 assists in the outfield. Don't forget about how good he is defensively. We're talking about the offensive numbers, but day in and day out, he's as good as anybody in the game.
Truly a great all-around player, and he's going up and against a very good all-around player in Jose Altuve of the Houston Astros. We'll explore more about these two all-stars when we come back to Minute Maid Park right after this.
By McDonald's. I'm loving it.
by your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. By Panini's, get overstuffed at Panini's Bar and Grill. And by Jeep. Visit Jeep.com to learn more. And we welcome you inside Minute Maid Park here in Houston, Texas, as the Indians embark on a 4-game series against the Astros. Well, we talked about Michael Brantley and the special season that he is having. As we bring in Katie with him, Jose Altuve, their all-star, is now just 4 hits shy of the Astros franchise record for hits in a single season. Katie, I know you talked to Michael. There's a mutual admiration society there.
Oh, there absolutely is, Matt. And it's not just that. I mean, you look at the standings in nearly every major offensive category in the American League, and you see Jose Altuve's name. Well, Michael Brantley, his teammate for a day in this year's MLB All-Star Game, talked earlier to me about what that experience was like in our Here Right Audiology Sounds of the Game.
His attitude was great. We had a lot of laughs, a lot of jokes. A lot of guys were making fun of how short he was, but at the same time, he's such a great ball player. He's a very explosive ball player. He keeps you on your heels a little bit, when you're on the defensive side. So you got to control him this series, and he's a great player to watch.
Well, I'll tell you what, this little guy, big things come in little packages, and here's one. He has 42 doubles, 52 stolen bases. He's just a hit machine. I mean, when you can get 200 hits in 1 year, that's something very special. He should set the franchise record. He has 62 multi-game hits this year. That already sets a record for this franchise. So it's a very special year for this young man.
As you can see by the video, what makes him dangerous is his ability to hit to all fields. Tough to get a beat on Jose Altuve. The Indians and the Astros, this 4-game series about to get underway, and Zach McAllister gets an opportunity to make the start on the hill for the Tribe. The play-by-play is coming up next. By your Northern Ohio Honda dealers, by the Cleveland Clinic, call today for an appointment today, and by the Northeast Ohio Ford dealers. All right, the Indians and the Astros meeting for the first time this year here in Houston. The Astros came to Cleveland earlier where the Indians won 2 out of 3. Colin McHugh will get the start for the Astros here tonight. This guy has been on some kind of roll. In his last 8 starts, Colin McHugh has gone 5-0 with a 1.69 ERA. He's up there among the very best in baseball over that stretch. So he is a tough customer for the Indians to have to deal with. There you go.
Yeah,
since August 1st, only Alex Cobb of the Rays has been better.
That's hard to believe, and he doesn't give up many hits, boy, so he makes you earn it.
Our stat of the game brought to you by Buick. As Colin McHugh and the Astros take the field, let's take a look at the starting lineup he will face. For the Indians, it's brought to you by Progressive. Michael Bourne, Jose Ramirez, and Michael Brantley at the top. Then it's Carlos Santana, Jason Kipnis, and Yan Gomes. You'll note Kipnis is DHing today. That's because Zach Walters is at second base, and he will bat ninth here tonight.
GMC starting pitcher, Colin McHugh. He is 9-9 on the year, but a fine .279 earned run average in his 142 innings pitched, just 108 hits. Has walked 40, struck out 144. He's a 27-year-old rookie making his 24th start, and he's looking to become the first Astro to win 6 straight decisions since Brett Myers did it back in 2010. We can set the Kia defense behind him this evening. It'll look like this. It'll be Grossman in left field, Fowler is in center, Marisnik in right. Dominguez at third, Petit at short, Altuve is at second, Krause is at first, Castro doing the catching.
Larry Vanover's your crew chief. He'll call the balls and strikes tonight. Angel Hernandez at first, Paul Nauert at second, and Vic Carapazza is at third. Now the pranksters are out. CC Lee has been duped. He got the cup secured to the top of his hat with bubble gum, and he doesn't even know it.
Well, yeah, just look at the guy next to him, and he'll tell you he's laughing.
Well, Katie's going to give it away because she's laughing, and he's looking right at it. She can't even keep a straight face. You're giving it away.
I mean, seriously, Katie.
CC's looking around like, why is everybody laughing at me?
What are you doing?
Guys, I'm not saying anything. I know what
You're
has
giving
happened.
it away.
But, I mean, he really does have no clue. And
well, he will if he just looks at you.
I know. I believe Mark Zepchinski is the culprit.
Yeah.
He's now hiding because we're not supposed to say anything. But
Right.
Gum has attached that to his head.
Well, that's a good sign. I mean, hey, it was a tough, brutal weekend for the ball club. They went in with high hopes. Tigers took all 3. Got to bounce back, though. I mean, there's still 2 weeks of baseball left to go. Anything can happen. And they've got to try to put it behind them. As Michael Bourne said yesterday, we got to get real hot, real fast. And we'll see if they can do that starting tonight here in Houston. The Indians start the game 6.5 out of first place. 5 games out in the wild card. And in the wild card standings, Toronto sits 1 game in front of them. Seattle 4 in front of them. And then the 2 wild card occupants at the moment, Oakland and Kansas City. Here we go as Bourne steps in. And the former Astro. Awaits the pitch. Here it is. That was low and away, ball 1 from Colin McHugh.
McHugh made a start against the Indians August 23rd. He went 5 1/3 innings, gave up 8 hits and a couple of runs. He had a no decision in that ball game. The Indians won it 3-2, but he pitched pretty well.
Warm and humid here in Houston, Texas, but the roof is closed. It's only been open 18 times this year.
Yeah, when it's closed, it seems like you're playing in a warehouse.
It's very spacious. You're not kidding.
It's just it's a weird feeling when you're indoors like this.
It is nice with the huge glass windows beyond left and left center field. The 2-1 popped out of play. So unlike the old Astrodome, when once you were in there you couldn't see the outside world, at least here you've got a nice look at downtown Houston. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And that's too high and a full count. Bouncing ball towards second base, and Jose Altuve will throw. Oh, it's off the glove of Krause, and Bourne will go to second. How in the world did that happen?
Boy, I don't know. I was getting down to right 4-3.
Krause just, I don't know if he missed it or what happened. I thought maybe it went right through
He's shaking his
glove.
head. Hold on a second. It's a routine. Oopsie. I don't know.
He just didn't catch it, and it'll be a two-base error on Krause. So the Indians have a break to start the ball game as Jose Ramirez steps in. Houston has won their last 4 home games. Ramirez lays down a very good bunt. And McHugh throws him out.
Little mock clap because he caught the ball at first base.
Tough crowd, you know what I'm saying? Our great clip of the game from yesterday, all series long in Detroit. Michael Brantley swung the bat well. Brantley has now hit in 5 straight games, 9 hits in his last 18 at bats. And he's bumped that batting average up once again to .320.
That sacrifice by Ramirez gives him 13. He leads the league in that department. He hasn't been here that long. His 56th game, he's got 13 sacrifices.
Now Brantley trying to get him home from third. Infield is back, except for the third baseman Dominguez, who's even with the bag. And Michael takes a breaking ball in for a strike. 1-1 to count. Brantley 6 RBI, shy of that 100 mark. It's just one of those, as you pointed out in the open, it's one of those numbers that you want to achieve as a baseball player.
Yeah, I mean it's something that you set your sights on. I think when you're a little kid, I mean those are magic numbers.
You drive in 100
homers.
runs in the big leagues, you're a legitimate star player.
Yeah, you are. I mean you score 100, you drive in 100, you hit 40 doubles, you hit 20 homers, you steal 20 bags. That's impressive.
Yeah.
You know that, I mean, we're just talking offense. That's not even talking about his defense day in and day out. And he's out there every day. He's the one guy, the one constant that the Indians have had every day in that lineup offensively. And you know, when you think about it, he wasn't even hitting third when this year began.
Swing and a miss. Brantley chases one, and he strikes out. We got 2 down here in the first.
What up now? Come on. What up?
Keys to the game are brought to you by Wayside Furniture. So the Indians trying to stop McHugh's second half run. And is this the last start for Zach McAllister? I mean, to a degree, he might control some of that with how well he pitches here tonight. Carlos Santana with 2 down on runner at third. He's sitting at 79 runs batted in on the year, 27 home runs. And he takes a little bit high, ball 1. Bourne at third with 2 down. And the pitch is up high. McHugh has unleashed 6 wild pitches on the year. And this is a rather short backstop area here in Houston.
Yes, it is.
Good breaking ball, and it's in for a strike.
Yeah, not much distance. It looks like, what, about 20 feet, maybe 25 feet?
Yeah, I mean, if you get any kind of a ricochet back to the catcher, it's not a guarantee you can scamper home. A lot of that will depend on the jump on a ball that gets by. Santana rifles one to right field. It's over the head of Altuve. And Bourne will score from third as Carlos Santana picks up his 80th run batted in on the year. Boy, you talk about perfect placement. That was it.
Well, he hit it to the right guy. The short guy that was playing deep to begin with, and he gets it over his head. It's going to be on McDonald's. I'm loving a 2-out base hit. That a way to pick up your teammate. Michael Brantley couldn't get the job done. Carlos comes up, gives the Indians a 1-0 lead in the first, so they make the error pay.
Craig Biggio wasn't exactly a giant in his day, but you're saying he might have been able to make that play?
Yeah,
just
he was
a little bit taller.
Big. Oh yes, oh yes. Altuve, they don't get much shorter than that.
Well, good news for the Indians when they score first, 51-25 on the year. That was a stat that didn't necessarily ring true over the weekend in Detroit. But for the most part, it has served them well. So they get the early lead. And now Jason Kipnis trying to extend the inning. Looks at a ball up and away. Kipnis 0 for his last 8 at the plate. In the number 5 spot, he has played 29 games and he's hit .270 with 17 runs scored. Slow breaking ball drops in for a strike. And it's 2-2. Hit hard and foul off the facing of the Astros dugout. For a guy like Kipnis, who has had success when he can drive the ball to the opposite field, this would be a good park to hit, and I would think, because you've got the short porch in left. You can either bang it off the wall or drive it into that awkward alley in left center field.
Seems like a little Fenway Parkish, only not the big wall, but it's shallow to left. I mean, you got the deep center field.
It's only 315 down the line here in left, and then it juts out at the end of that out-of-town scoreboard. It juts straight back to the wall, which
it's a weird layout here.
Closes the bullpen for Cleveland.
And yeah, you go to 436 and straight away center with Towers Hill.
Runner goes, and a pop-up shallow left. In comes Robbie Grossman, and the inning is over. The Indians grab the early lead on the 80th run batted into the year for Carlos Santana. Now the Astros are coming to bat. CC Lee finally figured it out.
Well, you notice right before he goes between the lines.
Yeah.
Someone's got to tell him.
All right, so here's the Houston Astros starting lineup. Robbie Grossman at the top. Jose Altuve, what a year he's had. Look at it, 206 hits, 42 doubles, 52 steals. First player to do that since Ty Cobb. Dexter Fowler is batting third. Then it's Carter, Krause, and Castro, Marisnick, Dominguez, and Petit.
GMC starting pitcher is going to be Zach McAllister, making his first start since July 31st against the Seattle Mariners, his 15th on the year. He's 3-6 and a .597. That doubleheader the Indians had enabled Zach to get a start here.
By the way, the Astros starting lineup brought to you by Toyota, and they're under a new manager since we last played Houston. On September 1st, Bo Porter was relieved of his duties, and Tom Lawless now is named the interim manager. And the fallout when Bo Porter was relieved, let go, however you want to say it, fired, a lot of conjecture, a lot of things were thrown about how the Astros do business in their baseball operations department. There were a lot of accusations that they're strictly an organization that runs by the numbers and that they don't rely on baseball instincts. And Tom Lawless said, look, that's nonsense. He said, we have numbers. The other team has numbers. Everybody in baseball has numbers. He said, you used to have to remember things. Now you don't have to because it's in black and white in a sheet right before you in the dugout. But he said, look, we're no different than any other organization. Obviously, there was a disconnect between Bo Porter, the manager, and the general manager, and that led to ultimately the decision they
keep
had
it
to
simple.
make.
Players play between the lines. You can put all the information you want in front of them. They still have to execute and play the game of baseball.
And hey, the Astros have improved, Rick. I mean, a year ago,
they're 15 games better already this year than they were last year.
They've won 9 of their last 13 here since the end of August.
Then again, they had to improve over last year.
Oh, you would hope so, right?
You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's no way to go but up.
Robbie Grossman, switch hitter. McAllister throws it by him at 94 miles an hour and strikes him out, 1 down.
Let's check out the Kia Indians defense behind McAllister this evening. It'll be Brantley in left field, Bourne in center, Murphy in right, Chisenhall at third, Ramirez at short, Walters at second, Santana at first, Gomes doing the catching.
So here's Jose Altuve. When you have a season like Altuve has had, and they start trying to find guys who have put up similar numbers, and they have to go all the way back to 1917 and invoke the name of Ty Cobb, that tells you it's pretty rare, pretty special year that he is having.
It's no doubt about it. He's having a very special year.
Deep right, but back is Murphy to get it just in front of the warning track. 2 down. Michael Brantley told Katie the players had fun at Altuve's expense at the All-Star game. And Rick, as you know, there's nothing sacred in the clubhouse when you're on a ball club. Everybody's going to find out your weakness, your shortcomings, and they're going to
attack it,
abuse you for it.
Absolutely.
So you better have a thick skin.
Well, when you consider the amount of time that's spent together with everybody, day in and day out, yes, you're going to get under a lot of people's skin.
Thick skin and bat .339. That'll shut them up real quick.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of friends.
Dexter Fowler, 0-2 the count. Missed off the plate with it. Swing and a miss, and McAllister strikes out a pair. Here in the first, the Astros go 1-2-3, and after an inning of play, it's the Indians 1 and the Astros nothing. By Sunnyside Toyota, a quarter-mile west of Great Northern Mall on the North Olmsted Auto Mile. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. This is what they call the sprawl here in Houston, Texas. Downtown Houston is where you will find Minute Maid Park, home of the Astros. The old Astrodome's about a 15 or 20 minute ride or so from where we are now. Yan Gomes will lead off, and he swings at the first pitch, lifts it high in the air. Looks like it's going to stay in play, and Jake Marisnick is there. One down. Oh, we talked about some of the quirky nature of this ballpark with the dimensions, and Katie Witham has more on that from downstairs.
Matt, I asked Terry Francona what he thinks about it, and he actually said, going back to his playing days a long time ago, that it kind of reminds him of Chattanooga Park, because he just loves the character. He thinks it adds personality, and he mentioned, you know, in every other sport like football, basketball, all the dimensions have to be exactly the same. Well, in baseball, each part can have some character, and he said, you know, the only thing is you got to make sure all the players get out during BP and see how the ball caroms and plays off of the wall in the hill. But he really likes it. Rick, would you like playing outfield in a ballpark like this?
Well, no, not. I don't mind the 436, the straightaway center. I really don't care about the hill that's out there, where if you're going full speed and have to run up that hill, you know, maybe hurt yourself. I mean, it's different. You know, this is only the second year we're coming here, really, because Houston coming back over to the American League. It's going to take a while to get used to it. You can go out there in batting practice and, you know, think you're going to get a few of the hops, but until you get in game situations, you really don't know.
Taos Hill is just goofy.
It is.
That's just silly.
We talked about it before the game. I think it's crazy.
Swing and a miss by David Murphy, and there are two down here in the second. Where I think you talk about getting out in the outfield, Rick, during batting practice and maybe getting a feel for it. That alley in left center is where it's strange, because you can get a bunch of different caroms. Because you've got, see where the waste management is marking on the pillars?
Yes.
If it hits off that pillar, it's going to get hard. If it hits above it, it's cement. If it hits right on the sign, it's padded.
Yeah.
If it hits in between there, it's screened. But then there are edges. They're just a lot of different crazy
Nooks and
bounces.
crannies. You know, the first thing I think of is a left-handed hitter that drives the ball in the left center field, and that ball usually slices that way. So, you don't know where it's going to hit and where it can ricochet. I'm sure you can see a lot of funny bounces, and they have here playing in this 81 times.
Lonnie Chisenhall ropes a single to right field. And it's a 2-out base hit to keep the inning alive for Zach Walters. But hey, it's no different than when you and I were kids and you're growing up in somebody's backyard or out in the street. You learn to play those crazy bounces off the car,
off the trees, off the
curb,
roof,
whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah, you do eventually. That's right. You learn. Sometimes it may be the hard way, but you learn.
That's the Houston Astros bullpen in right center field. And then, as we pointed out before, the Indians bullpen is actually over there in left center, right behind those fences there.
Yeah, they look like garage doors.
Yeah, they do. Looks like you could pull your truck in there and have them work on it during the game, doesn't it?
That's where Murph and Pat and the boys are.
Fill her up, give it a wash and a wax, change the oil. Be back in a half an hour. Zach Walters getting the start at second base tonight and batting ninth. And he takes it's a ball inside on the count 2-0. That's going to be back into the seats. Minute Maid Park opened back in 2000. Still takes some getting used to coming here and remembering that this isn't an interleague game.
Right. That's what they just joined the American League West 2 years ago. As a matter of fact, we'll open next season here in this ballpark before we head home for a 3-game series.
Yeah, it's weird because last year we came here in April, didn't come back again until this September, and then we'll be right back here to start next year. Now the 2-2 offering. And a swing and a miss. Walters goes down. Pair of strikeouts for Colin McHugh here in the second. 1-0 Cleveland, middle of inning number 2. 1-0 Cleveland on top of the Astros, bottom of the second. Chris Carter, Mark Krause, and Jason Castro due up for Houston. Nice catch.
That's why you bring a glove.
Chris Carter has bad intentions. He has hit 36 home runs this year. Go along with 20 doubles.
Well, you know, he's a guy. It used to be it's all or nothing, but now this year he's on a 12-game hitting streak. 85 ribbies. He's been very good since what was it? July 1st. He's been swinging the bat.
Just off the plate. 1-2. Well, Rick, since the All-Star break, Carter has hit 17 homers.
There you go. Bautista behind him. Yeah, they break it down in their notes from July 1st, where he's hit 23. But that's what can also happen when you make your pitches. He can swing and miss.
Well, he got ahead of him. That was the important thing. Good location, got ahead, and then watch where this pitch is located by McAllister.
Check this out. Nissan pitch tracker, outside edge, got it by him. Well done.
Mark Krause will bat. His error allowed the only run of the game essentially to come around and score. It was a goofy play. The throw was okay. Maybe it was a little bit high, but it was one of those ones where I don't think Krause could explain it. It just ticked off of his glove. Michael Bourne went to second and was able to come home on the RBI hit by Carlos Santana. It sounds goofy, but I have heard guys say that sometimes, especially when a player's that close to you as Altuve was, you put your glove up and all of a sudden your glove gets right in front of your eyes and you lose the ball.
Yeah, you can't for
and it hits off the side of your glove because you just didn't see it.
Very easily. I was going to say that, but I would have sounded like I'm making excuses.
Yeah.
But that can happen where you put your glove up and you will lose it for a second. And, you know, it hits off it and you don't close it, or you expect it to go right in the middle.
Boy, Zach McAllister is carving to start the ball game. He has fanned 4 of the first 5 hitters.
Watch the glove go up, and maybe it is in front of his face. He doesn't see it, but you don't see that at the major league level.
I'm telling you, that's what happened. I think that's exactly what happened.
It very well could have, Matt. I mean, the only one that could answer that would be him. And I'm sure somebody will ask him afterwards. Maybe none of his teammates. He's just going to be saying, don't be afraid to catch it. Because it ended up costing him a run.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that'll be in the blooper reel.
Yeah,
it's
it doesn't
no
look
laughing
good.
matter down there right now.
Correct.
There's a ball hit to left field. Michael Brantley on the run, can't get there. He does cut it off. And Jason Castro is held to a 2-out single here in the second.
There's a little spinner right there. At breakabout, really didn't do much. It sort of was flat, but Castro takes it the other way. Brantley catches up to it, and we'll hold him to a 2-out single. That's the first hit for Houston tonight.
And that will bring up Jake Marisnick. And he takes a strike. Fastball right over the plate. And it count quickly 0-2.
McAllister has made one other start against these Astros. It was last year, September 20th at Progressive Field. He got the win.
Well, Zach is throwing a lot of strikes, as evidenced by the 4 strikeouts in the first 5 hitters. But in this inning, he's throwing 11 out of his 13 pitches for strikes. And there's another one as he rings up Marisnick for his 5th strikeout of the night. He fans all 3 here in the second. 1-0 Cleveland after 2. Don't forget to tweet your photos to us using the hashtag SDOFanPhoto for a chance to have one of your pictures shown during our telecast this year. It's all courtesy of AT&T. Going out of the third, top of the order for the Tribe, Michael Bourne, who scored the only run of this game, will lead it off. Bourne wanted to bunt and he missed it. Went right to the front of the box. And Colin McHugh quickly gets ahead 0-2. Downstairs.
McHugh looks like he's got a very good breaking ball. He takes a lot off that slow hook.
Swing and a miss. So McHugh with his 4th strikeout, one down here in the third.
This looked like another breaking ball, like either a cutter or a slider. He's got it like a cutter. I'm thinking that's a cutter right there on the outside part of the plate. Bourne comes up empty.
7 swings and misses now for McHugh. He's got good stuff. There's no debating that. And he's in a very good place right now in terms of over the last 8 starts. You're going back to the start of August.
Now. Come on, Matt.
He has not lost a game. And he's in pretty good company in terms of Astros history with the kind of run he's on. The only other Astros pitchers to go through an 8-game stretch the way McHugh has, with regards to being 5-0 and 1.69 ERA. You got Larry Dierker, J.R. Richard, Nolan Ryan, and Mike Scott. 2 down.
Those are some big names right there that you just mentioned.
You're talking about some of the best pitchers this franchise has ever had.
Matter of fact, I did see Nolan Ryan in the food room tonight. He walked in. He's back here in this organization now. And there's Scott, number 33, Ryan, number 34, J.R. Richard. He threw the ball about as hard as anybody ever could. He threw it well over 100,
yeah.
I'm thinking, at times. He was about 6'8", and I mean, he unleashed that ball that was about 10 feet out in front of home plate, it seemed like.
Pitch to Michael Brantley is outside. Brantley struck out his first time up. Trying to remember, was it a stroke that cut short J.R. Richards' career?
Yes, it was.
Now the 1-0. Michael tees off, drives it to deep right center field, and that will one-hop the fence. And Brantley will roll into second base with his 40th double of the year. So now he just needs to get that one more home run, pick up a few more ribbies, and he's got himself an incredible season.
Well, he had a nice pitch to hit, too. It was a fastball right there, and he did what he was supposed to do with it. He crushes it. Hits it into right center field, short hops the wall. He will cruise into second base, so a 2-out double. That's their second. Actually, all 3 hits have come with 2 outs. So Santana, who drove in the only run of the ball game, was with a 2-out single. He came and picked up Brantley his first at bat and scored a Bourne, and he's got an opportunity to do it here.
Well, Carlos. Looking for that big 2-out RBI hit then, as he got in the first inning. So how about the only Indians to hit 20 homers, steal 20 bags, and
40 doubles.
40 doubles. Grady Sizemore and Robbie Alomar.
Okay.
It's that rare blend of power
you can
and
do
speed.
It all. Yep. That's a good pitch right there. I like that pitch. That really takes that hitter off. His cutter or his fastball. I mean, you just watch, he can locate it, and it's just so slow. And it takes him off the cutter and fastball. It's a good pitch.
In the dirt, nicely blocked by Castro. And a foul right back. So the count 2-2 on Santana. And he strikes him out with that slow breaking ball. So that's 5 strikeouts for McHugh. Middle of the third, it remains Cleveland 1, Houston nothing. Just a reminder as you enjoy a cold one to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Well, we roll on to the home half of the third inning. Matt Dominguez, Gregorio Petit, and Robbie Grossman due up. Zach McAllister has struck out 5 in the first 2 innings.
Both these guys have the strikeout ball work. And McAllister's dealing with his fastball and locating it very well. And McHugh is he's mixing it up. A little different. He's throwing the big slow hook, the fastball, a cutter, and a changeup.
Upstairs with a fastball, 1-1. Off the plate. And Dominguez works the count to 2-1. Three balls and a strike. Dominguez just 2 for 26 on the Astros' last road trip.
Well, but they had a pretty good road trip considering their stops. They were 5-4 on that trip. They went to Oakland, Seattle. They won 2 out of 3 in those 2 stops. They were 1-2, and they stopped the Angels' 10-game winning streak yesterday.
Yeah, they were the last team to beat the Angels before the Angels started that 10-game winning streak. Popped him up. Playable. Carlos Santana into foul territory. 1 away. Let's go downstairs. Katie, what did Zach McAllister do when he went down to the minor leagues? How did he get himself ready for this start here tonight?
Well, Matt, if you look at this graphic, this literally was the plan that they sent Zach McAllister to AAA with. You look at some of the numbers in which they allowed him to throw pitches. Basically, the point is Zach's a fastball pitcher. They needed to get him uncomfortable and then get him comfortable with throwing his fastball, knowing that the other team knew he was going to throw the fastball, but they made him throw it anyway in every count, essentially forcing him to kind of find what worked for him in terms of keeping the ball down on a consistent manner. And so far, it's really paid off.
Well, there was an 0-0 curveball right there that he missed the strike zone with, so now you come back with the heater.
That's laced to left. A base hit by Gregorio Petit.
You know, it's amazing after we watched Zach pitch. He has a good fastball, and fastball command is number one you have to establish as a major league pitcher. But his breaking ball and changeup are so inconsistent, you know, that when it comes down to whatever he's going to throw in a situation, as a hitter, you'd have to look for the fastball. Fell behind there, you come back with a fastball. Then you really have to start locating it. When you know, hitters are, if he's going to pitch up here and be successful, he's got to develop a breaking ball, and his changeup's going to have to develop where he can throw it for strikes.
Robbie Grossman with 1 on 1 out. Struck out his first time up. Swings at the first pitch, and it's out of play to the left. Fastball at 93. In for a strike to run the count to no balls, 2 strikes. And the 0-2 foul away. who may have lost a few lights here at Minute Maid Park.
Boy, when you first come in here in the afternoon when there's batting practice, it's very dark in here.
He did not go. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
I didn't think he went either. Let's look at it from the side. There's a better look. No, that was a good call. He did not go.
Robbie Grossman has 48 walks this year. That's second on the club. But he's in the hole here, 1 and 2. Swings and drives it to deep left field. Brantley on the run on the track. He can't make the play. It's off his glove and into the corner.
I think that's just a situation where Michael didn't know where he was. I think he thought he was going to hit the wall. To me now, it looked like it went off the end of his glove because I lost him as he was going into the corner. I'm thinking that he might have had another step or two and then realized that, yeah, that's a play he makes most of the time. I think that wall, a little intimidation, not being here, not knowing that where you're at on the field, had something to do with it. It'll go as a double. But boy, 9 times out, more than that, Brantley will catch that ball. I just have a feeling that he thought he was a lot closer to that wall than what he was.
Well, it sets the table for Jose Altuve. Fly to right his first time up. Indians lead at 1-0, but Astros at second and third with 1 out. Singles right back up the middle. Tying run scores. Here comes the go-ahead run. He scores 2. Altuve has seen 2 pitches tonight, and now he has 2 runs batted in.
Yeah, you go figure. Now, Houston takes advantage of the break that they get. It just happened to be the league's best hitter coming up in the situation, and he wastes no time. That was a breaking ball from McAllister, and it went right between his legs. Again, it was a flatter breaking ball, but it was in the strike zone. Altuve took advantage of it, hit it between his legs up the middle, and they take the lead. That's 207 hits now for Altuve.
He's closing in on Craig Biggio's franchise mark. Dexter Fowler struck out his first time up. Pitch out, nothing doing. Well, Altuve with 52 stolen bases on the year, you can see why the Indians would pitch out there.
Well, it's a guessing game with them. When he gets his pitch, or when he'll pick it when he wants to run. Sometimes you'll give that left-handed hitter the hole.
Smack to left center. Bourne goes to a dive and makes a catch. Terrific play for out number 2. That looked like it was going to be another hit off the bat. That
sure did.
Stung to the alley, but Bourne made a great break on the ball.
Let's check it out on our Wendy slow motion replay. He got a very good jump and comes in, goes head first. And if that ball gets by him, it's trouble, but he makes a wonderful catch. Going down, gets the ball in. That's out number 2.
Brings up Chris Carter, struck out his first time up. There goes the runner. Gomes with a great throw. Got him. Gomes throws out Altuve to end the inning. But Jose drives in 2 to put the Astros in front 2-1. Now on FoxSportsOhio.com, what the Indians need to do to keep their playoff hopes alive. Zach Jackson gives you 3 things you may have missed from yesterday's Browns victory, and how Blue Jackets winger Nick Foligno translates lessons learned from adversity in his personal life to the ice. It's all on FoxSportsOhio.com. Jason Kipnis, who flied to left his only time up, will lead off the 4th. Drive down a run now, 2-1. The Indians have managed a hit in every inning thus far, but all 3 hits have come with 2 outs. Now, the last time they faced McHugh in Cleveland, they tagged him for 8 hits in 5 1/3, and that equals the most hits he's allowed this year.
That's right, Colin. That boy.
Altuve throws out Kipnis, 1 away. Time for a Mazda game break. Let's go to the studios, and here's Al Pawlowski. Thanks, Al. Meanwhile, Chicago has jumped on James Shields for a 3-0 lead there in the 3rd inning in Kansas City. Here's Yan Gomes, who fouled out to right field his first time up. Rick, I find it interesting that as well as McHugh has pitched this year and as well as he has pitched lately, you have to go all the way back to his first 2 starts of the season to find the most strikeouts and the most innings pitched in a game. In fact, the most strikeouts was his first time out against Seattle April 22nd. He punched out 12. And then his next start against Oakland, he went 8 2/3 and only allowed 1 run on 2 hits in that game.
Well, you can see what he does. I mean, he's a pitcher. I mean, he comes up and he's used 4 pitches. And that slow curveball right there is a pretty darn good pitch. He has 6.
And he's already, halfway to his season high.
You watch some of the pitches. There's that curveball again. He really takes the hitter off balance. There's a cutter away. Curveball. So that's his pretty much go-to pitch when he gets the 2 strikes. He throws that cutter early. He mixes in the fastball, and he pretty much shows you that's a get me over curve, strike 1. He'll show you the changeup. So you don't really think about swinging at that pitch much, but it's like a setup pitch. There it was right there. You see, you don't swing at it because he hasn't thrown it for a strike yet. Maybe he has thrown 1 for a strike, but for the most part, he hasn't proven to you as a hitter yet he can throw it for a strike. It's that slow curveball and the cutter. Here comes a fastball away. Make it in.
He
called for it away.
Up his catcher.
Yes, he did.
All right, come on. Come on, Colin.
Another cutter, and it's 2-2. Left field, long run, Grossman over into the corner, and he makes the catch. So the Indians are retired in order for the first time tonight. 2-1 Astros, middle of the 4th.
most popular way to follow September pennant races is with the MLB.com @bat, the #1 app for live baseball. You enjoy live look-ins, replay reviews, scores, live radio broadcasts, the MLB.tv game of the day, and more. Get @bat for your smartphone or tablet on the App Store, or you can visit MLB.com.
Chris Carter will lead off for Houston. Couldn't help himself. Struck out his first time up. And just like that, it's 0-2. During his current 12-game hitting streak, he's gone 15 for 42. Almost chased after it again, but held up. He's also reached base safely in 19 straight games. It's the high mark for the Astros this year. Smack to left, and Brantley makes the catch. One away. Injury report brought to you by the attorneys at Elk and Elk. And for Houston, George Springer was out running in the outfield trying to do some sprint work. It's feeling better. He says he's feeling better, but as to his status, as to whether or not they would even risk, why would you bring him back with only 2 weeks to play? Doesn't seem likely.
No, not when you've missed as much time as he's missed. Well,
now, granted, if the doctors say you're good, you're clear, well, then.
You know what? The reason to bring him back, because a young man like Springer, his age, he wants to come back and prove to himself that it feels good before the season's over, and he can go into the offseason with a peace of mind. I could see that.
I just don't know, after missing 51 games.
Well, bring him back and DH him.
Nice backhand play by Santana, and McAllister reaches back to snare the throw for out number 2. Yeah, I mean, I just didn't know, Rick, like from a timing standpoint, could you miss that much time and had no rehab games and just step in there?
Well, with that kid, he probably could.
Could.
That's their Superman. He's a very young. I wanted to see the kid play this year. We watched him from television and watched him play against other teams, and what a swing he has.
You got any pull on that Astros staff? You could go down there and lobby someone.
I certainly do not. They'd throw me out of the clubhouse. But I can't wait to see him. We'll see him next year, that's for sure.
Yeah, real good chance we'll see him right out of the gate. Jason Castro, base hit his first time up.
I want to send along a birthday wish to Bernice Haymeyer, turning 95 from Brunswick. Bernice, happy birthday to you.
To left field, over near the line. Fair ball. In the corner, and Jason Castro has gone to left field twice tonight for hits.
Well, this was an easy pitch for him to go to left field. It was a high, hanging, breaking ball. And it was easy for him to shove it, push it the other way. You get the look, and it's going to be about belt high, and it comes in and it hangs around middle of the plate. There it is, and it's an easy pitch to go the other way. So that's a breaking ball that McAllister has got to get down. Second double of the game for the Astros.
Slowly chopped by the mound. No play for Ramirez. So first and third with 2 down, and then we'll bring up Matt Dominguez.
Nothing you can do here when it gets over the head of McAllister, because it's going to deaden itself. You see how far back that Ramirez was. He's going to barehand it. That's the right move. Don't throw to first, because you're not going to get him, and you may get the guy rounding the base sometimes. Well, unfortunately, it was the catcher that was rounded third base, and he's not going to try and score, that's for sure.
Matt Dominguez fouled out his first time up. Not sure what that move was by Marisnick.
He took off and then stopped. And he better be careful because Cleveland catchers, they do a good job throwing behind runners. That's just a fake. You know, that's just trying to show somebody, maybe your skipper on the bench, that, hey, I can get a jump. Well, Gomes will be waiting for him the next time you try that. It'll continue to go. They're not going to throw it through. With the catcher on third base, I'm a little surprised. They're just going to concede the stolen base there. You know, you fake the throw and maybe the guy coming home, but it's a catcher at home, so sometimes you'll throw through in that situation. They didn't hear.
And a foul right back. Well, after Zach McAllister came out throwing BBs to start the ball game, he had 5 strikeouts in the first 2 innings. But now 5 of the last 8 Astros to bat have hits. Second and third, 2-1 pitch with 2 down. Upstairs, 3 balls and a strike. Threw it by him, full count.
There you go. That's where you pound the zone. Down in the strike zone, right there. That was a good 3-1 pitch. Throw another one.
To third, off the glove of Chisenhall. And the throw to first, got it by Ramirez. Oh, what a heads-up play by Jose Ramirez. After it kicked off Chisenhall's glove, he picked up the loose pill and fired a seed to first to end the inning. Of the Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. So I'm not sure what. Oh, What was going on there? So orbit was used as an antenna, as a microphone. 2-1 Astros on top. Jose Ramirez. Don't mess with my hair, man.
Yeah, right. Leave it alone. It's looking good.
That was a heck of a play he just made.
Yes, it was a very heads-up play.
Lonnie Chisenhall. Base hit his first time up.
Come on.
Missed off the plate.
Come on, Colin. Come on now. Stop.
Breaking ball, bottom of the zone, a called strike. This time with the shift on it, diving stop by Altuve, and he throws out Chisenhall. Wow. A sensational diving stop by the Astros all-star second baseman.
I mean to tell you, that ball was by him. He was on an angle diving toward the outfield, and he's able to glove it. And this guy, watch how quickly, gets up to throw it. Stops his slide, gets from his knees, and then throws it. And I mean, he has him by just a half a step. Yeah, that's diving away from the play. Getting to his knees and gets enough on the throw to get him. That's a very good play.
Breaking ball, bang to first. Easy play. 2 down.
That's how last inning ended. It went up off of Chiz's glove and his wrist, and then a very heads-up play by Ramirez to make that throw, and I don't know who's toweling him off.
Keeps playing like that. Whoever that was going to be carrying his bags around too.
Yeah, he is. He's been impressive.
Outside to Michael Brown, or Michael Bourne, excuse me. Bourne reached on an error and came around to score the Indians' only run back in the first. Since then, Colin McHugh has shut them down. Second time through the order, the Indians had just one hit. And now Bourne, leading off the third time through the order for Cleveland, has a 2-out single here in the fifth.
Another 2-out base hit.
All 4 hits for the Tribe have come with 2 outs. What made Cleveland native Dante Whitner come home to play for the Browns? Find out this answer and more with the former Glenville and Ohio State star on Dante Whitner Revealed, Friday night at 7 p.m. before Indians Live on Sports Time Ohio. Hit hard. Oh, backhanded by Kraus. He takes a hit away to end the inning. 2-1 Astros, middle of the fifth.
Well, join the Indians on September 27th. It'll be fan appreciation night out at Progressive Field. The Tribe will take on the Rays from Tampa. Fans will enjoy dollar dogs, fireworks, other fan appreciation activities throughout the game. Visit Indians.com for your tickets.
Zach McAllister delivers low and away ball one to Gregorio Petit, who singled and scored in the third for Houston. Checked on a ball that was letter high, but just out of the strike zone, and the count is 2-1. Got a foul back to even the count. Minute Maid Park in its 15th season of baseball has hosted the All-Star Game, the World Series. I think the thing that people like most is the fact that even though it's indoors most of the time, it's natural grass. Which, if I remember right, was the original plan for the Houston Astrodome.
It was?
But they had the glass panels on the roof to allow the sunlight to come in and allow the grass to grow. But when they hit balls in the air, you couldn't see them because of the glare.
Makes sense.
So they painted the glass to keep the sun from shining in, and the grass died.
Yeah.
And then they had to put in the turf, which became known as AstroTurf, because that's where I assume that was the first place they really installed it. And then the next thing you know, it was everywhere. In the air to right field. Over near the line is David Murphy. And Petit is retired for out number one. In-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. Indians scored first. It was a two-out RBI single by Carlos Santana that brought home Michael Bourne. Stayed that way until the third when Jose Altuve banged a single up the middle to score two. And that's where we stand now in the bottom of the fifth. Didn't take long for the Indians to make their first visit to this ballpark. As we said, you know, Houston was in the National League until a couple of years ago, but the Indians came here in 01, just 1 year after the park opened for an interleague series with the Astros. Swing and a miss. And the count now a ball and 2 strikes. In addition to that, too, Rick, because of the Indians spring training home in Winter Haven, Florida, this was a natural stop on the way north. So there were a number of exhibition games played here at the end of spring training right before the start of the regular season. Big bouncer to first. Santana will take it himself. 2 down. That will bring up Jose Altuve. Now sitting 207 hits on the year. Our stage manager, Jeff Chapman, called up a little note here for me. The first major installation of AstroTurf was indeed at the Astrodome. Yeah, the funny part was you would assume that maybe it was a company here in Houston that came up with it, but the manufacturing facility that made the stuff is in Georgia. Swing and a miss by Altuve, fooled him that time, and it's 0-2.
That was a breaking ball. He kept down and away. Altuve went after it, chased it, and that did not look like a strike. Called that first fastball. This guy's aggressive. He's not. Yeah, he swung on a ball, but he wanted to get after this guy. That's how you get hits. You go up there and you swing the bat. Just like that. One. And he got a fastball to his liking. That wasn't where McAllister wanted it, but he is now 2 for 3. Another multi-hit game. Give him 63 on the year. And there's his hit total. We don't even have to tell you. Just look at the signs. Had him down in the count. 0-2. And let's see where the location is. They want to slide it in. Boy, that's just a good pitch to hit. That's a bad pitch by McAllister. And he gets a base hit. That is number 7. By far, Michael Brantley right there. He's 11 behind him now. He has a chance to stay 10 behind him with another hit in his next at bat.
Dexter Fowler 0 for 2. He has struck out, lined out. On the ground, the second baseman, Zach Walters. And we've played 5 innings in Houston. The Astros 2 and the Indians 1. Two on Astros on top as we go to the 6th inning. And it's time now for our AT&T fan photo of the game. Remember to tweet your photos to us using the hashtag #STOFanPhoto for a chance to have your picture shown during our telecast. It's all courtesy of AT&T. Terry Francona looking for some offense. The Indians have 4 hits, but all 4 hits have come with 2 outs in the inning. 1 in the 1st, 1 in the 2nd, 1 in the 3rd, and 1 in the 5th. Brantley has 1 of those. That was a 2-out double in the 3rd. Colin McHugh, that has been a money pitch for him all night.
Get me over,
get me over, or it's a put away, one or the other.
That was about 71 miles an hour. There's a cutter away. And the reason why if pitchers, if they can do that, hitters are geared for something harder that first pitch. And if you throw that off-speed pitch, most of the time they're going to take it.
You ever go up sitting on a first pitch breaking ball?
Well, if you have a pattern against a certain pitcher, you may go ahead and say, okay, now I'm waiting for that one curveball, and you'll have to take something, anything else. But they don't have a book on them. This is only the second time they faced them. I wouldn't think anybody's going to go up there and swing at that first pitch. If they do, they got to be crazy. That's a tough one to time up.
Yeah, even if you're sitting on it, you still might not get it.
You still got a double clutch, and that's the toughest thing to do when you're waiting. I mean, to hit when you're hitting is to wait.
Michael got a piece.
Yeah, it's just tough to wait back on that pitch. You swing at it if you have to.
One ball, 2 strikes. Wanted it up high, not high enough. Brantley got a piece of it, though, to stay alive.
Now Michael goes into that protect mode and fouls off good pitches. They want it up there. They want it belt high or above. That was away. That's going away. Not a bad pitch. Not a bad pitcher's pitch, but Brantley fouls it off.
And there's the breaking ball down out of the zone. When you've got a 1-2 count, that's where you want to throw it. You don't want to miss and hang one.
Yeah, he expected Michael to chase after it, but Michael doesn't swing at many bad pitches.
Come back. Come on now. Come on back.
Hung that one, but Michael might have broke his bat on it.
Sounded like it.
Everything looked good except the contact area.
Well, don't forget to check in during your visit to Progressive Field using the MLB.com at the ballpark app. You can download it on the app or Play stores to unlock offers, rewards, and exclusive content. Learn more at Indians.com.
Carlos Santana with a 2-out RBI single in the first, struck out his last time up. Pitch outside. During their 4-game home winning streak, big key for the Astros is pitching. Their ERA is 1.25.
Yeah, their starters have been very good for them.
And so far, McHugh has not allowed an earned run tonight. There's a changeup. We haven't seen many good ones. That one was excellent.
That was a good one. You're right. That's the one you don't want to swing at. See, Carlos is asking, is it a strike? Let's take a look from this angle and see. That's out off the plate or borderline. It's a good pitch. And he got him to swing at it. He sinks it away, cuts it in.
Well, he's moving it around,
and he's changing speeds. Hasn't walked anybody. Matter of fact, there hasn't been a walk in the ball game.
Another swing and a miss. That's 16 on the night for Colin McHugh and 7 strikeouts in the ball game.
Yeah, he gets him to swing over the top. That's an excellent location for that little cutter down and in. Good spot, good location, out number 2. So now what do we expect to hit here? 2 outs, nobody on.
He retired the side in order in the 4th. It's the only time tonight. One and one to count. Breaking ball, and he lines it back up the middle.
Here's your 2-out hit.
The pattern
continues. That has been the pattern of the ball game. But McHugh left this breaking ball upstairs, so Jason took advantage of it. Good pitch to hit. Drives it into center field. Hit number 5.
Well, Yan Gomes is 0 for 2 on the night. But it was Yan Gomes who did quite a bit of damage the last time these two teams met back in Cleveland. And a short hop backhand attempt. And Petit able to recover and still throw him out. Wow. Pulled it into the hole. Petit knocks it down. Still has enough time to pick it up and throw him out. Well, we move to the home half of the 6th inning here in Houston, where the Astros maintain a 2-1 lead. Justin Sellers is now in the game for Cleveland. He takes over at second base for Zach Walders. We'll see if Katie has any information on whether or not that's simply a managerial decision or if something happened to Walders.
We'll have to get her microphone back from the mascot.
Hopefully Orbit didn't eat it. Chris Carter is 0 for 2. He has struck out and he has lined out tonight. Two quick strikes. Out of play to the right side. Astros furry mascot. Not sure what the plan of attack is for McAllister tonight in terms of how many pitches they're comfortable with letting him go. I mean, he's already 80 pitches on the night, so
they'll keep an eye on him. He hasn't struggled to this point.
No. His velocity is, he's maintained his velocity mid-90s all night long. But they do have activity in the bullpen.
Well, one-run ball game, you know, you're not going to let them go that long. I mean, they'll keep their eye on him. Don't know if it's all right. They get a guy on base and he's gone yet.
Left-hander Kyle Crockett, right-hander C.C. Lee. Meanwhile, 1 ball, 2 strike count here on Carter. Big chopper foul. That Pat Listash, boy, he made 2 really nice plays back-to-back down there at third.
He won the Rookie of the Year over Kenny Lofton. I know you're thinking that.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
I knew you had to be. I felt you thinking about it. I mean, I could feel you.
You could see the burn, the smoke coming out of my ears. The 1-2 pitch. It's not his fault. He had a heck of a year from Milwaukee.
Yes, he did.
I always think about that thing. What were the people following baseball out here watching, right? Two-two pitch. Another foul ball.
Yeah, the big man's putting together a pretty good at-bat here. He swings and misses a lot of pitches, but he's fouling off pitches. And like we said before, he's on a 12-game hitting streak. He's had his opportunity to reach base, did you say, 19 times in a row.
Well, this will be the 10th pitch of the at-bat as McAllister looking for something to put him away with. Got in on him, and it's popped to right. Murphy will make the catch for out number 1. Let's go down to Katie. Katie, what was the game plan? I know they're not going to reveal all secrets, but when you're facing a guy like Chris Carter, he can do a lot of damage.
He can, and the Indians actually said pitching to him is kind of the way you want to pitch to Miguel Cabrera. He's very aggressive, has power to all fields. So they said you've got to make your pitches from the start, force him to respect the inside corner, and keep the ball down, especially when going away, Matt.
There you go. So get ahead of him. You got to pitch him inside. He's a guy that likes to extend the arms. And get ahead of him, and he'll expand. He's one of those guys, those power hitters. He gets into the groove and.
Mark Krause 0 for 2. Out on strikes, and he is grounded out. Here's Adam Everett, former Indian, who's now the bench coach.
He didn't mess around there.
Right out and attacked him. First strikeout for McAllister since the second inning, when he had struck out 5 of the first 7 hitters he faced in the game.
Well, there's that nice little comeback fastball after the pitch before he threw the changeup and got it in the zone. Well, I don't know what he was looking for, but Krause will walk back to the dugout.
Yeah, Rick, when the Astros made the change when Bo Porter was relieved, Dave Tremblay, the bench coach, was also let go at that time. Sometimes it's the bench coach who just sort of
takes
moves up
over
the ladder. But
right.
in that case, it didn't happen.
Well, with the short time he had left as of September 1st, you know, they had to put things in place, and I'm sure they're thinking about next year already on where they want people in their organization.
One ball and one strike here for Jason Castro, who has 2 hits on the night. Both of them he has taken the ball to the opposite field. That was Michael Brantley. I might want to just go over and stand on the left field corner.
Yeah.
But he's not doing that, obviously.
Well, and he had 2 strikes on him the last time. There he is again. He's waiting for this one, though.
Michael makes the catch. And the Astros are retired 1-2-3 for the first time since the first inning. They still lead it, though, 2-1. Win over the Saints, getting the keys to the game against the Ravens. It's Sunday Strategy presented by Mazda, Wednesday after Indians Live on Sports Time Ohio. I've been a Texan 2 years, been a Tribe fan 26 years and counting.
Well, you can tell he's from Ohio. He doesn't have the boots on. No cowboy hat. He hasn't quite turned Texan yet.
Now Zach McAllister talking with Mickey Callaway. Not sure if his night is over. Might be. But Zach pitched 6 innings tonight. Gave up just 2 runs on 7 hits. Didn't walk a batter. And he struck out 6. He's at 90 pitches on the night. Bottom third of the Indians order here in the 7th. It'll be David Murphy, Lonnie Chisenhall, and then Justin Sellers. First ball swing, pop up shallow left. And the shortstop Petit has it 1 away. Time for another Mazda Game Break. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Jim DeShays
Yeah,
used to
but
do.
you can't strike out the first 8 and then give up a hit to the pitcher.
You wouldn't think so.
That's got to be.
Really.
That's got to be a serious kangaroo court fine, right
I
there.
would think so, unless that pitcher's hitting over 300.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah, it is. But that happens.
Jim DeShays, a longtime broadcaster.
Murph told me the pitcher was hitting 200.
It's a funny game.
That it is. DeShay's now, he's no longer in Houston broadcast. He's in Chicago.
Cubs, right? Yeah. He was here for years. Well, obviously pitched here a long time.
There's a good changeup right there. That's one thing he's done. He's changed speeds well. He's used his cutter. He's used his slow curve. He doesn't command his fastball all that well, but enough to get on it and get it by you. But his secondary pitches are pretty dark. Ouch!
Knocked his glove off.
He's hurt.
And he is in a lot of pain.
Yeah, he is. That got nothing but skin. That was on the glove hand.
I was going to say the only silver lining for the Astros is it wasn't his pitching hand. But I don't think he's going to be able to continue.
No, I don't think so. It looked like he got him on the wrist. He's in pain, is right. I mean, that ball was smoked. You could hear it from up here. Take a look at it, see if it gets him in the wrist. Hard to tell from that angle, but you can see the glove goes down, the hand goes numb, but had the presence to just pick it up and throw a strike to first base. Yow, forearm.
Yeah, look like got him right above the fat part of the thumb, which sometimes guys, that part of the hand will actually stick out from under the glove, and that's look
at that. Seeing if he's got any feeling in there. Squeeze my fingers. Well, I can't feel my hand. How am I supposed to squeeze anything? Well, he was throwing earlier in this inning. Chapman out of the bullpen. We'll see. No, he's going in, and that's probably a good call. They may go get it X-rayed. But what a game he pitched tonight. An unearned run in the first inning. And then scattered 4 more hits after that, all coming with 2 outs. All 5 hits.
Well, this will be our Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen. He might want to head to the Cleveland Clinic to get that checked out. And we'll get a new pitcher when we come back. 2-1 Astros here in the 7th. Now back here in Houston, and the Astros go to left-hander Kevin Chapman, 16th appearance on the year, coming off a scoreless inning of work Saturday against the Angels, in which he punched out 2 batters. In his last 7 big league games, he's given up 1 earned run in 7 2/3 innings pitched. So
he'll get all the time he needs, necessary to warm up.
We're going to get a pinch hit or 2 for Justin Sellers as Mike Aviles goes to the on-deck circle.
Boy, let's take a look at that play that knocks Colin McHugh out of the ball game. It's a vicious line drive off the bat of Chisenhall. Oh man, check out the reaction time. You don't have time to react. That was just a solid hit because it stayed right in that area. It didn't deflect and didn't go anywhere. He was able to jump on it, and I'm sure they're going to take it for x-rays right now and take a look at it. And then puts a ton of ice on it. So Chapman looks like he's ready. He'll be facing Aviles.
Interesting. And that Justin Sellers went in defensively, played a half an inning, and now he gets lifted for a pinch hitter. He's a right-handed batter, as is Mike Aviles. Almost tells me that maybe whatever happened to Walters happened so quickly that it maybe they didn't have time to really plan for it. It's just like, hey, who's here? Sellers, get out there. You got to play second base right now.
Well, yeah, you're right. Something happened. You don't want Sellers to hit. You're down. You're running out of outs.
Yeah, we had an umpire. Umpire was missing in action. Potty break. All right, we're ready to go now. As Kevin Chapman will go to work against Mike Aviles. And Aviles on the year as a pinch hitter is 1 for 11. Upstairs with it for ball one. Up the middle, cut off by the shortstop Petit. Oh, nicely dug out by Krause at first base, and the inning is over. Stretch time in Houston. The Astros on top 2-1. Seventh inning stretch. Brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Life is hard. Buying a car shouldn't be. Minute Maid Park here in Houston, Texas, as you take a look from our Panini's overstuffed cam. Bottom third of the Astros order will bat here in the bottom of the seventh inning. Jake Marisnick, Matt Dominguez, and Gregorio Petit. New Cleveland pitcher is C.C. Lee, his 32nd appearance on the year. A win, a loss, and an ERA of .468. He's worked 25 innings on the year, 24 strikeouts. He's walked 10 batters.
What a weird day he had yesterday.
Well, his last two times out have been rough.
Yeah.
Both in Detroit. So
well,
he's got to try to bounce back
He did some things yesterday that you haven't seen in a while. A guy trying to sacrifice bunt, and he throws it behind him. And then you're intentionally walking somebody. They throw a wild pitch and a run scores. That's stuff you don't see. Happened to him yesterday. So I'm sure Tito wants to get him right back in there. And let's go. Get good thoughts back in your mind.
Foul left side. White Sox still lead the Royals 3-0 after 6 innings in Kansas City. Twins have closed the gap on Detroit. 6-4 Tigers. They're in the 7th in Minnesota.
That's going to get into the seats.
A ball and 2 strikes, the count on Jake Marisnick. Big bouncer and a bare hand grab made by Aviles.
You know why he did that? I think that ball hit something and took a bounce. He was going to his left, and that thing took a wicked hop, and it sort of came back on him, and I think that's why he barehanded. Watch the second hop. This one here. Did you see where it took some kind of funny spin on that baseball? It went the other way. He was going one way. He had to barehand. That was a weird hop.
Swing and a miss by Matt Dominguez. Low strike, knees at the corner, outside edge. Boy, nice pitch, 0-2. Center, and Michael Brantley will make the grab. 2 away. Yeah, remember way back early in the game, C.C. Lee was the unsuspecting victim of a prank.
Look at Katie's reaction right there. She can't help it. But yeah, as he was walking out to the bullpen, those guys let him know. There it is. Get it off of there, C.C. Now everybody will start feeling the top of their head.
Right. Make sure it's not me. I didn't get pranked, right?
Right.
Trust no one.
No, they're kind now. They just put cups on your head. We used to light shoestrings on fire. I think you'd have to call the fire department.
One-0 pitch. Was Bert Blyleven the best?
One of the, when you talk about pranksters and having fun, and you just got to keep your eyes open when you're around him, absolutely. No matter where he played, with every team. He still hasn't changed.
Well, that's true.
Can't tell you what he did to us back in Cleveland when we were doing our open.
No, we probably shouldn't share that one.
Well, I'm not going to, but you brought up his name.
Let's just say it wasn't pretty. It's nice to know he's never grown up.
He hasn't. Most ball players haven't.
1-2 pitch. Just missed, and it evens the count at 2-2.
try and hit the outside corner. May have been just away a little bit or up.
To left. Brantley has to play it on a hop. That was sinking in a hurry. And a 2-out base runner now for the switch hitting Robbie Grossman.
Well, you can guarantee yourself postseason tickets with the Tribe's playoff payoff program. You place a deposit on next year's season tickets, you gain access priority to this year's postseason tickets. Visit Indians.com for more detail.
Timeout for a pitching change. CC Lee retires after getting the first 2 outs in the inning. And left-hander Nick Hagedorn will be coming on when we come back. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. Coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. Nick Hagedorn.
He's on for one hitter, I would imagine. Push Grossman over to the right side of the plate. He's a better hitter from the left side, average-wise.
Last time out for Nick didn't go so well against the Angels. 1 hit, 1 walk. Both runners scored. Grossman 1 for 3 tonight. All 3 at bats coming from the left side of the plate. As a right-handed hitter, he's hitting .213, but only 1 of his 6 home runs has come from this side of the plate. Upstairs, 2-0. Two and one. Gregorio Petit, line drive single to left with 2 outs in the inning. He's at first base. And a foul right back to even the count at 2-2. Close pitch. It's called a ball. And the count is full.
A little upstairs. Well, down to a 3-2 count. Should be his only hitter.
Got him looking. That'll end the inning. Nick Hagedorn strikes him out, and we'll go to the 8th. 2-1 Houston. Well, as promised earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Zach McAllister got the start tonight. He went 6 innings. He gave up 2 runs on 7 hits. Did not walk a batter and struck out 6. But unfortunately, as has been the case too many times in the last month and a half, he hasn't gotten any run support.
No, good start for Zach tonight. John Singleton comes into the ballgame at first base. Yeah, the Indians down to 6 outs now, and they've got to try and find a way to score a couple of runs here.
Kevin Chapman, who got the last out in the 7th, stays on. Low and away, ball 1. Just inside all the way to the backstop.
Borney lucky to get out of the way of that one, right at his front hip.
2-1 to count. Came up and smacked Borney. And the count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Orioles got a win tonight. They beat Toronto 5-2. Baltimore has reduced their magic number to clinch the American League East to 1.
Yeah.
Toronto began the night a game in front of the Indians in the wild card chase. So the fact that they lost could be good news for the Indians, but they need to get themselves up off the deck here and get going. Kansas City losing, that's good news for the Indians. Seattle just underway out in Anaheim. Bourne called out on strikes. 1 away here in the 8th.
Locked him up with a 3-2 breaking ball. Started it behind him. It comes back onto the inside part of the plate. Borney will have to walk back. He couldn't pull the trigger. Takes it. He knew it.
Jose Ramirez 0 for 2 on the night. He laid down a sacrifice bunt way back in the first. Led to the Tribe's first run. Takes a called strike. To third. Easy play for Dominguez. 2 down. In-game box score brought to you by your Hyundai dealers. And the frustration for the Indians offense continues. Most of their hits tonight, in fact, all of their hits have come with 2 outs.
That's right, all 5 hits.
And unfortunately, they weren't all bunched together. That's one thing if you get a bunch of 2-out back. But they had a 2-out single in the first, 2-out single in the second, a 2-out double in the third, 2-out single in the 5th, 2-out single in the 6th. That's it.
And the run they scored is unearned.
Yeah,
it was
not
an error.
For the error,
right.
They wouldn't even have a run.
Off of Michael Bourne to. I've never seen a shift like this for Michael Brantley. Have you?
Nope.
3 guys on the left side because he can go the other way. Unless they really plan on throwing him awfully slow stuff to try and turn. But rarely, I think this is the first. I don't recall any other team making a shift like this to Michael.
Well, 2 quick strikes. And now Dominguez, the shortstop, is going to move up the middle. So Brantley, who has just tremendous bat control, he could literally just flip one toward third base and he'd have a double.
Maybe that's what they want him to do. I don't know, but I don't recall seeing this all year long.
They don't want him to tie it up with one swing of the bat, so they'll concede the base hit the other way. Then you bring the go-ahead run to the plate.
Yeah,
though.
you bring your power man up next if that's it. But we'll see. Michael's got to go ahead and do that. See how they try to put him away with 2 strikes. He got ahead of him quickly.
Out of play to the left. Left-hander Kevin Chapman has retired all 3 batters he's faced.
Look at that.
And Brantley to center field. It will drop for a base hit.
You see, you go ahead and throw him the breaking ball. Michael can push it and do whatever he wants with it. Another multi-hit game for Michael. So, and the beat goes on. Another 2-out base hit. He left that breaking ball in, and Michael was concentrating, going the other way. No stride. Did you see that? He just picked up his front foot, put it right back down. And he gets his second hit tonight, keeps this inning going, and they're going to make a pitching change, it looks like.
Samuel Deduno, right-hander, is going to come on to face Carlos Santana, which again is very interesting because while his batting average is down, this is the power side of the plate for Santana. That's the matchup when we come back. Well, here's the situation. Astros are on top 2-1. Tribe's got a runner at first, tying run. And the go-ahead run now at the plate. Carlos Santana to face Samuel Deduno. We remember him from the Twins. Santana 2 for 16 in his career off Deduno. 1 for 3 this evening. Carlos responsible for the Indians' only run when he drove home Michael Bourne with a 2-out RBI single in the first. Upstairs with a breaking ball.
Deduno can get wild. He has a hard time throwing strikes sometimes. He can throw wild pitches. I wouldn't mind seeing Brantley take off if he could get a jump.
Oh, that's a called strike, 1-1. Missed again with a breaking ball. So if you're Carlos Santana, you're saying, okay.
2 sliders for balls.
Yep.
The fastball was for a strike. But don't try to pull it. Take what he's going to give you. A lot of space out there.
And Brantley with his speed could score on a gapper here. That's the interesting thing about this park, Rick. I was looking at this before. With its quirky dimensions, it didn't take long. Luis Gonzalez of the Diamondbacks recorded the first cycle in this ballpark on July of the first year that it opened. And the Astros got their first cycle 1 year later. 3-1 pitch. Driven to right field, but right at the chest of Jake Marisnick. And the inning is over. This October, history will be made as baseball's postseason moves to America's new sports network. Fox Sports 1 is your new home for baseball's National League Division and Championship Series. And it all begins this October. Scott Atchison will pitch the bottom of the 8th. Fourth Indians pitcher to work tonight. He's got Jose Altuve, Dexter Fowler, and Chris Carter. And Altuve, that might be the first pitch he's taken tonight.
It is. It certainly is. He swings at everything.
Big curveball in for a strike, and it's 0-2. He lays off. It's 2-2. To right, down the line, fair ball.
Boy, that guy can flat out hit.
He's going to go for 3. And he is safe with a leadoff triple.
He can flat out hit, boy. He got that pitch away, gets his 3rd triple. And I mean, it went down into the corner, and he put his head down. He made the decision after he rounded first base. He saw Murphy going into it. It was a high breaking ball. And you can see it just stays inside the line. And that fan kept his hands off of it, and it hits the corner, and he made a decision. He's going to go for 3rd. And I mean, he just does beat it. That's good hustle. And that's what Houston was looking for. Look at him, a 3-hit game, his 23rd.
He's now 1 hit shy of the Astros single-season franchise record. Drive has to bring the infield in now for Dexter Fowler, and it's up high for ball 1. Indians lead is 2-1. They can't ill afford to fall any further behind. Upstairs, 2-0. Foul. 2-1. They're telling us that Colin McHugh, at this point, it's a left forearm contusion. So that's good news for the Astros and that young man.
Yeah, he'll have a big old bruise there, that's for sure.
Swing and a miss, and it's 2-2. Wouldn't go after it. Full count. Big Chris Carter waits on deck. Atchison would love a strikeout or a pop-up here. Then he could walk Carter.
Well, I think he could pitch to him and get another strikeout. That's what I think. I think with Atchison stuff, he could go at him.
Three-2. Popped up. Foul ground.
He will tag.
Chisenhall can't get there.
Yeah, that would have been a tag situation. Chisenhall made a nice effort trying to catch that ball, but with his back to the end or to home plate, and he would not have been able to get up and make a throw. I mean, he's got a long way. He would have had to catch this ball. Really tough play. That run would have scored. Sort of glad he didn't get it. Maybe you get the strikeout here.
Fowler fights one off, stays alive again. Well, that's going to get the run home. And it's now a 3-1 Astros lead. So Jose Altuve drove in the Astros' first two with a base hit in the third, and now his triple leading off the eighth leads to their third run of the game. One out in the inning. Chris Carter 0 for 3 on the night. The 1-1 right back up the middle. And Aviles throws him out. 2 down. Before John Singleton comes to the plate, we're going to get another pitching change. There are 2 outs here in the 8th inning, and the Astros now lead it 3-1. And left-hander Kyle Crockett will be coming on to face John Singleton when we return. And Total Car Care is coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. New Indians pitcher is left-hander Kyle Crockett. His 38th appearance of the year, 3 wins, no losses, an ERA of 1.71.
Coming in the match up against John Singleton, who came into the game defensively, the big, powerful left-handed hitter.
13 homers, 44 runs batted in for Singleton. That's the most by an Astros rookie first baseman since Jeff Bagwell hit 14 and drove in 80 in 1991.
Well, he never came up at the start of the season. He was later on. Not hitting for much of an average, but
Crockett in for a strike.
hit a big home run back in Cleveland down the left field line. 3-run homer late in the ball game.
to right field. Murphy makes the grab. We'll go to the ninth. It's now Houston 3, Cleveland 1. Looking back at our keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Stop McHugh's second half run. They didn't do that. The Indians only got one run, and it was an unearned run off McHugh. They did knock him out of the game inadvertently on a line drive, but that was after he'd already gone 6 2/3 innings. Didn't walk a batter and struck out 7. Zach McAllister acquitted himself nicely. He did terrific. Went 6, gave up just 2 runs. But here we go, 9th inning, and the Indians are down 2. They're telling us now that Zach Walters left the game with a right intercostal strain for the Indians. So that was the reason that we had the revolving door at second base there for a while. Chad Qualls, the Houston closer, looking for his 15th save of the year. Make that 18th save of the year. And he'll be facing Kipnis, Gomes, and Murphy.
All right, down to their last 3 outs. You got to find a way. Get that leadoff man aboard again. The Indians' offense just can't put anything together here.
Jason Kipnis 1 for 3 on the night. Swing and a miss to the breaking ball in the dirt. It's 0-2. And he swings and misses. He had a ball in the dirt. 1 away. The announced attendance tonight here at Minute Maid Park is 17,403. And evidently that figure includes every man, woman, and child that walked within 5 miles of Minute Maid Park.
Well, so be it. If that's what they say. I don't know what their season ticket base is, but
Yan Gomes 0 for 3 on the night. is fouled out, struck out, grounded out. Out of play.
Ball's coming in. He's throwing strikes. He's not messing around.
And the 0-2's in the dirt.
Chad Qualls, his problems this year have come against Oakland A's. He's blown 4 saves against the A's. Against every other team, the rest of baseball, he's 15 out of 16.
Oh, he knocked it down with the bare hand and throws him out. Oh, like a big brown bear swatting trout or salmon out the river. You got to be kidding me.
That's exactly what it looked like to me, too. He came up and slapped like he was palming the ball. Watch him. He sticks it back out there and doesn't hold on to it, but he slaps it down into the ground and recovers quickly. Who needs a stinking glove? Use my bare hand. A big brown bear.
He looks like he's all right, but they're going to give him he's flexing that hand and probably smarting a little bit. He's also 1 out away from a save, so he wants to stay out here and finish his thing off.
No question. He'll get some feeling back in.
I don't know, though.
No, that's okay. You throw 1 or 2 to the screen. They'll give him time. Yeah, it's not like he tried to take it and give with it. He slapped at it.
Yeah, I mean, he caught that thing right in the palm of his hand, which I don't know. Maybe that's better than if you catch it
on the finger. Yeah. All right, he's starting to get some feeling back. We'll see. A couple more. He says, I'm fine. I'm sure it still bothers him a little bit. He's fine. You're right. He's 1 out away from the save. He's not going to. Listen to this.
Sounded like a guy in basketball rejecting a shot. Well, remember, it was in the 7th inning. It was a comebacker to the mound that knocked starter Colin McHugh out of the game with a contusion on the left forearm. David Murphy, the last hope for the Indians, 0 for 3 on the night, and he hits a ground ball in the hole. It's a base hit. And the Indians will bring the tying run to the plate here in the 9th. And that will be in the form of Lonnie Chisenhall.
Goes right down. There's that little sinker, but he threw it to the inside part of the plate. And David Murphy was able to find that hole. Look at Singleton in there, gets under his glove. So found the hole between first and second. And they do bring the tying run to the plate.
And Tom Lawless must be concerned about Chad Qualls with that hand, because he's immediately gotten the left-hander up in the Houston bullpen. Lonnie Chisenhall pulls it foul. Well, and once again, it's a 2-out hit for the Indians. All seven of their hits.
It's amazing, isn't it?
They've all come independently of each other with 2 outs.
That is that's hard to start a rally, hard to get anything going when that happens.
And a ground ball to Altuve. And the game is over. The Astros beat the Indians to take the series opener by a final score of 3-1. And the Indians' offensive woes come crashing down on them here tonight as they manage 1 unearned run in the ballgame. Winning pitcher Colin McHugh, he's 10-9, saved the Chad Qualls his 18th. Loser is Zach McAllister, he falls to 3-7. Houston goes to 67-83. The Indians fall to 76-73 as the Tribe has now dropped 4 in a row at the worst possible time of the season.